Chad.
Misty. Lana.
As I started talking to rodeo queens, I quickly realized their memories and lives are forcing me to rethink the history and the culture of the West. The West is a tenacious symbol of power and freedom, but there are tensions between myth-making and ordinary life. Professor Elaine Linwick. From this quote, we can get a certain passion about the Western heritage, which leads on to rodeo, and leads on to my proposition about rodeo queens. But first, there are misunderstandings in the sport of rodeo. Therefore, I believe there is ignorance in the sport of rodeo when it is perceived from its critics, and people need to be fully educated before they make accusations for three main reasons. Rodeo is more than what you see as a spectator. The biggest issue for protesters such as Shark or PETA is animal welfare. And, leads on to my proposition, this is why we have rodeo queens. And my plan will work. First, rodeo is more than what you see as a spectator. The history of rodeo is important. Rodeo is part of the Western lifestyle, the Western heritage, the patronage, the pageantry that America was originally founded on. About how people would move cattle from one coast to the other to packing plants, and that's how rodeo was started, by cowboys just coming together mid-trail to have fun and compete. But there's more to the present rodeo historically that people need to realize. And rodeo is completely professional. From PRCA, this is the largest and oldest rodeo organization. It originally was called Cowboy Turtles Association, but now it's called Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. And what I lead on to is this is completely professional. By having this sanctioned group and organization, PRCA, it makes it professional. It makes rules and standards and certain things that everybody has to be under to be competing. And it's professional. This is how people make a living, such as Trevor Brazil, who in 2014, his season earnings were from $202,380 to $502,809. And something that you also need to factor in is stock contractors, who are the people who bring the cattle to the rodeos, bring the horses, bring all the animals. And this is how they make a living, going from rodeo to rodeo every weekend, supplying the stock. And the biggest issue for protesters is animal welfare. This is kind of the basis for my argument on how this is the thing that most people get upset about, why we do what we do, is because they believe what we do is inhumane, it's disrespectful, it is taking advantage of something that is lesser than you, smaller than you, and just taking advantage of that, which is not why we do what we do. Welfare of animals in rodeo has been a source of concern for the industry and the public and law for decades. Protests first began in the 1870s by American Humane Association, who today works alongside PCA, which governs 1/3 of U.S. rodeos to improve animal treatment and rules. This is from Wikipedia in 2013. So these certain organizations, PETA, Shark, they need to understand we are working with them to try to come to a general consensus and try to even the field to a certain degree. And what they also need to understand is we have strict veterinary standards. From the PRCA rules, a vet must be on hand, which, for everyone's safety, to check the animals before they go in, as soon as they get there. So they need to understand we're not just pulling them out of the pasture the other day and just kicking them out there and taking advantage of them. They are checked before they get in the ring. They have to be checked physically, mentally, check their eyes and ears to make sure they're healthy. And there's over 60 rules, like a vet being there, and also there also must be a humane source of travel, like a trailer there, just in case something were to go wrong. They would be able to haul an animal from place to place if there was any immediate medical issue. So there are strict veterinary standards for everyone's safety. We're not just beating on an animal for, like they like to say, but we are looking out for the best of the animal. At the end, we work together for a common goal. If steer wrestler and his horse have to work together, can't just hop on and go. They work together. It's a team effort. So there are vets there. It's all completely healthy. And this leads on to my proposition. This is why we have rodeo queens. A rodeo queen is an advocate, ambassador, and a spokesman for rodeo. This is why I do what I do. This allows me to speak to the public on certain grounds of, this is how I grew up, this is how I was raised. I have been riding a horse ever since I can remember, and everything that happens at a rodeo all comes from historical means and everyday means. We have to go rope a cow down every now and then to go brand or give vaccinations for. So we do what we do for more than just pageantry. From Elaine Windlick in 2010, she was interviewing some rodeo queens, and this is what one of them had to say. Each horse took hours of care, as did the woman's hair. So when people see us riding around in the arena carrying flags, it's more than just us sitting tall in a saddle and looking pretty. We have to do everything else besides that, and we have been raised this way. All of the girls that I know that rodeo queen, they have been raised on ranches or farms. They have been riding forever. They've been roping. They've been doing this. And this is how we were raised. And I firmly stand by how we were raised. And leading on to my proposition, we should provide time for protesting organizations and rodeo spokespeople to meet in seminars or meetings, because I think a solid plan for coming from these two opposite sides, someone who believes rodeo is fine, somebody who believes it is completely wrong and we shouldn't have it at all, I believe coming together and sharing both sides of the story would come to a general consensus, which is what we want. Because we have one side who states their points and the other side who's been raised knowing that this is the way of life, this is what we do. And my plan will work for a number of reasons. It allows the public to connect directly, from the spokeswomen, spokes-cowboys, the rodeo personnel actually sharing their side of the story face to face with PETA and members of Shark, and just that face to face contact. It would allow more of a connection rather than just sending an email or posting something like on social media, what we do a lot nowadays. And it comes straight from the source. We come from people who were raised on doing this, who have been to rodeo every single weekend since they were born. And then we have people who strongly believe that what we do is wrong, and I respect that. And allowing that to come straight from the source instead of through social media or something else, it comes with more meaning. In conclusion, when critics speak on rodeo, they need to understand rodeo is more than a sport. It is a way of life. It is safe and ethical as long as rules and regulations are followed. And allowing that connection face to face will allow that to have even more meaning. So if we come to a consensus on rules and regulations, it'll even out the playing field. Therefore, I believe there is ignorance in the sport of rodeo and is perceived from its critics, and people need to be fully educated before they make accusations. So, coming to a consensus on education and educating both sides on their views, it'll make it less ignorant on both parts. So, in conclusion, that is my proposition on rodeo.